because at the time I was 21 and I was going on a backpacking adventure around the world, which ended up to be 3-year walkabout. And so, but prior to leaving, I was diagnosed with cancer, and that's why I'm inspired. And because it put me on my holistic health path, but what he also helped me to understand is the mind body spirit connection, why I created the cancer of all the suppressed emotion. And there was a lot of deep seated sadness and hurt. And my mum left my dad when I was 10. And I loved my dad, though through my teenage years, my dad was very critical of me and just blaming me because he was angry that mum left him. She said, when you walk into the room where your family is, well, all their cockroaches, their projection is all projected out. Because growing up, I was always the scapegoat. I was the, gaslit, thrown under the bus. I was blamed for everything. Running, if have a big bank account, if you've got the private jet and the 15 Ferraris, or you've got, this
whatever
type, well, then you're successful. And so many people, and I saw this, everywhere I traveled around the world, regardless of what they called themselves, under that money or that fame or whatever, there was deep-seated sadness and hurt and so much trauma and wounds. But
welcome to A Conversation with Faye. I'm Faye Waterman, your host. My beautiful guest today is Linda Joy Benn. And Linda Joy is a master healer, and she's going to talk all about that, a trainer and a founder of the BENN Method, and specializes in transforming stress to success. She created the BENN Method to help people who are going through burnout to come out the other end with success and feeling that balance of health and wellness so that they can do what they need to do in life. Welcome, Linda Joy, and thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Faye. Great to finally be here with you.
It is, and it's wonderful because you do so many different things and spend a lot of time helping people, heal them, or give them the direction that they need to go, or taking them on a journey. Let's talk about you though first. What's your journey? Where have you come from? What have you done in the past that's brought you here to what you're doing today?
Well, it all started back in 1990 when I was diagnosed with cancer. And I'd planned my overseas trip because at the time I was 21 and I was going on a backpacking adventure around the world, which ended up to be 3-year walkabout. And so, but prior to leaving, I was diagnosed with cancer, and the doctors didn't want me to go. But I knew deep down that the answers that I needed were overseas, and I needed to go on this trip because I knew that I had suppressed a lot of emotions. I was in a lot of emotional pain, not understanding why my family didn't understand me. I've always been different. I've always felt different. And in growing up, I went through a lot of childhood trauma, a lot of emotional pain of not understanding why my family ostracized me or rejected me, abandoned me, and didn't I didn't ever feel loved. And so that created the cancer. So when I got to America, Divine intervention had me meet a lady in San Francisco who said, I have heard that there's a wonderful psychic down in San Jose. Would you like to come with me? Now, she was quite skeptic. So this is over 30 years ago. And I went, absolutely. I've always, been into psychic and spiritual stuff. So that was just like, yes, let's go. And we both went and had a reading with Dale. But he never said a lot. Like, he mentioned a few things, but afterwards he gave me his card and he said, I don't normally do this, but it's got my home phone number on it. Call me. And when I called him, because he saw who I truly was, and I never went over and went, oh, hi everyone, I've got cancer. I was just on this adventure, so I didn't even mention it. But when I called him, that's when the floodgates opened, and that's where it's like, yeah, really raw, vulnerable, and I knew that I had some deep and dark healing to do. And what I would do is catch the train down to San Jose, because I was in San Francisco for about 6 months. And every week I would go down for my 2 days off and actually spend that time with Dale. And the teachings, the wisdom, the knowledge, the insights, everything that he shared with me is just
Still with
such
you
a
and still with you today.
absolutely. So this is why I'm inspired, and because it put me on my holistic health path. But what he also helped me to understand is the mind body spirit connection, why I created the cancer of all the suppressed emotions, the role that all my family were playing, and each role and what I'm to learn from that. So that completely changed my perspective. He also painted a painting for me, which is still on my wall today, of me in this life and several of my past lives. But I mean, my soul is thousands of years old. So, but everything that is in that painting is who I am, and what represents me. And it's only been recently that I've decided to start an academy or a school or an institute to share all Dale's wisdom and teachings. And yes, I've added in the BENN Method, but over the last 30 years and everything that I've been studying, plus my own journey of what I've gone through, will help others, especially through this huge awakening and ascension that we're all experiencing on the earth right now.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you there because I want to go back into your childhood where you said your family didn't really understand you. What was that like for you? What was that feeling like for you where your family didn't understand who you were, or your emotions, or you didn't understand them? Which was it? Or maybe it was a bit of both.
Well, I chose my family because we all, as crazy as it is, before we come down, we choose our parents on what our soul will learn the most from. And so in previous lives, my mother and my two sisters have killed me for teaching my spiritual teachings. And I've been, burnt at the stake, called the witch, I've been poisoned. Like, that's pretty much several lifetimes. So to close off that karmic loop, I chose them to be my siblings and my mother in this life in order to teach my spiritual teachings and to survive this one. But as a child growing up, I didn't know all of this, and it was incredibly emotionally painful, to be like, my mother would pick up my older sister from school, like I was 7, and I had to walk home. And then when I got home, I went, Mum, why didn't you pick me up? And she went, well, I never saw you. So she was only picking up my older sister, not me. Um, and so that relationship with my mum, it's always been a bit fractured, right from when I was born, because she didn't breastfeed me. But it's like, well, okay, what I've learned, that's why the nurture and the nourish is in my BENN method, because I've had to learn to nurture and nourish myself and parent myself. And so that's what I've learned on this journey, and stop looking to my parents or my siblings to love and accept me. I've had to learn to love and accept myself and not look for that in the external world.
And I think that that's what we all have to do. But I want to take you back again, because what was it like when your mother said she'd picked up your older sister and not picked you up? Why would she not see you or look out for you? And how did that make you feel when you got home? And she said, well, I didn't see you. Wasn't she concerned or anything? And how far did you have to walk? She didn't
Oh,
care, was it?
well, no, she didn't intend on picking me up. Um, but I ran across the road and Mum's car was there, and I and she just drove off, and I went, and then I cried all the way home. So that was, huge, like, abandonment and rejection. But that wasn't just the only time. I mean, when I was 17, she wrote a 3-page letter saying, don't bother coming home. You don't have a home to come to. And because I'd moved to Brisbane to work, and so all the ladies that I worked with at that time were like a mother figure, because they were all older than me. I was 17, straight out of school. And I never slept that night, and I was just a mess. And I went to work and I took the letter and I shared it with my boss, and she was like, oh my God. And then it got handed around the office, because no one could understand, why would a mother even write a letter like that? And so, but over the years, I've just really tried, to keep loving my mum and forgiving her, and just seeing that she was in a wounded place, and that she wasn't happy being married to my dad. And so it was a volatile marriage, and there was a lot of anger growing up, so I never felt safe. And and because I was born a joyful being, because that wasn't really accepted in the family, well, then, yeah, my older sister would physically beat me, and then emotionally and mentally, and mum never stuck up for me, or stopped my older sister. And she just go, oh, you two stop it, but it was like she threw me down the stairs, and I was, black and blue. And then when she threw my older sister, we were having an argument, and she threw a glass Vaseline bottle at me, and it hit me here, just at the corner of my eye. And anyway, and then when I looked down, I noticed blood just pouring down my chest, and that's when I started screaming. And Mum came, in and said, "What are you two doing?" And then she saw the blood, and Sandy's response was, well, I hope you die. And she just went off to the bedroom, but she wasn't, mum never did anything. Or so that was my childhood growing up. And
So
there's a lot.
she didn't wipe up the blood or help you with, clearing it all
Oh,
up.
I did that myself.
And your sister
Yeah.
just went off to the bedroom and said, I hope you die.
Mm.
Ooh. And any wonder you ended up with cancer in your body. What sort of cancer did you have?
Cervical,
Cervical cancer.
which
And
is interesting because previous lives ago, I was my dad's mother that died of cervical cancer when he was 18 months old. I chose my dad in this life to heal that karma, and then yeah, it was interesting. I recreated the same illness, thinking that, well, this is my way out because I was in so much emotional pain and suffering.
did you have friends at school? Did your teachers know how your mother was treating you?
No,
You
no,
didn't
because
say
I never,
anything to them?
I didn't say anything because it was, yeah, just put on a happy
Face.
facade.
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
And nobody knew. So you were being eaten up inside with grief and sadness that you weren't loved or cared for or anything like that. That's a pretty
Mm,
horrendous way to be brought up, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah. So when you left school, you obviously moved away from home, and you said you worked in retail, was it? Or,
No, I worked at the Sheraton Brisbane in
right,
hospitality. Yeah, and I
right.
was in the accounts department, and then I moved down to the front desk, and so that was my first career, on the front desk, reception and cashiering. Then moved into night audit, night manager, and duty manager.
And
In
what was that like for you? Did that make you feel important? Did it make you feel good inside because you
It
were
was
doing
great.
something that was a benefit, not just to yourself, but to others as well?
It was the time I was there. I worked in the hotel industry, well, at that particular hotel for 5 years, and had an amazing time. I met amazing people, and because it was during Expo '88. So when Brisbane had Expo '88 and the whole city was alive, and there was so many dynamic people and artists that came to Brisbane. And so like Michael Jackson stayed at the hotel and his whole team, and the videographer said, are you coming to the concert? And I went, no. And he goes, well, here, I'll give you a ticket. And I went, well, can I bring a friend? And so he gave me 2 tickets. And then my older sister said, well, my friend wants to come. So then I got 3 free tickets. But opportunities like that is, and I just met amazing people all the way through. And I never collected a lot of autographs because I just respected them for who they were, and I was doing my job.
Yeah.
But
So what was your sister like after you left home? Did she still hate you or not like you and treat you with,
oh yeah, yeah, all the way through. Yeah,
wow, was she jealous
very
of you?
jealous.
I was
Yeah,
going to
very
say,
jealous.
jealous
Mm.
of you. That's really sad. So how did you bring yourself out of that? What was it that made you worked in the hospitality industry, you actually met amazing people, and you continue to live your life and not sit and wallow in self-pity, which is amazing because you could have done that. You could have quite easily gone into that and sat and wallowed in self-pity and felt sorry for yourself and created even more, not necessarily cancer, but illness and depression and things like that. But you didn't do that. What stopped you from doing that?
I, as a little girl when I was 5, I remember I was drawing on this rock and I was singing John Denver's song. I'm leaving on a jet plane, don't know when I'll be back again. And I knew all the words, and I just knew that I was going to travel the world and travel to as many countries as I could. So deep down, I always was a free spirit, and I always just kept rising above the
Whatever was
grief.
going on.
Yes,
Yes.
I saw a lot of, but I just did not understand why my family were treating me like they were. And there was a lot of deep-seated sadness and hurt. And my mum left my dad when I was 10. And I loved my dad, though through my teenage years, my dad was very critical of me and just blaming me because he was angry that mum left him. And so then he'd look at me and say, "You're just like your mother." And because he was angry with mum, then he took that anger out on me. And then my older sister kept telling me lots of nasty, nasty words and calling me every name under the sun, but also how fat and ugly I was. And so that created an eating disorder because I thought, oh, if I'm fat and ugly, how am I ever going to get a boyfriend? And so that's when the eating disorder started. And that continued for many years because bulimia is all about self-hatred. I hated myself so much. And so that just added to all the other hurt and sadness. Plus, my boyfriend, when I had a boyfriend when I was 16, well, he was raping me and I kept breaking up with him. So that was sexual abuse. But then my mother loved him and put him on a pedestal and kept inviting him over for dinner every time I'd break up with him. And then he'd bring flowers. And later on, I said to mum, "Do you know that Russell was raping me the whole time?" And mum's response was, "Well, now you know what it feels like. That's what your father did to me." So that was, yeah. And it was like, wow, okay. But I just kept sending mum love because it was like, well, even just to respond like that, that said more about her emotional pain. And I mean, and even today, she's emotionally shut down. And I
Because she doesn't know anything else, does she?
no,
No.
no,
And she's blocked off from that to protect herself. Or
yeah.
she thinks she's protecting herself, but she's not really, is she? That's the
Mm,
interesting thing. So, but kudos to you for having the strength, the willpower, the courage to step up and move forward in your life and take control of your life instead of staying in that situation, because you could have sat in that space too and continue to do that until this day, but you
mm,
didn't. You stepped up and you moved forward because there was something in this, there was something inside you that was driving you to know that there was something better out there for you and you could be
absolutely.
treated
Mm.
with respect. But when a mother says to you, well, now you know how that feels because that's what your father did to me, was she punishing you for how she was being treated?
You could look at it like that. I just feel that me how this was explained to me, and I've done years and years of therapy and done so much healing and uncovering and really gone to the depths of the depths. And one of my teachers uh in a workshop, we were talking about heart expansion and contraction. And I put up my hand and I said, why is it when I walk into the room where my family is that they just attack me? And I mean, all the nastiness and that, they just, it's like it's not safe for me to walk in the room. And she gave me this beautiful metaphor that she said, Linda, you are so full of love and light. If you can imagine walking into a dark room and turning the light switch on, all the cockroaches all scurry. She said, when you walk into the room where your family is, well, all their cockroaches, their projection is all projected out, because growing up, I was always the scapegoat. I was the,
It's your
gaslit, thrown
fault.
under the bus. I was blamed for everything. And so, and both my sisters, I've learnt what narcissism is, because I never, back then, that term wasn't really readily used.
No, it
And
wasn't.
so now it's like I recognize that behavior. And because I've always, and still to this day, I really want to see the beauty in everybody and see their good side and see that everyone's got a beautiful, loving heart. But what I've learned is, no, not everyone has true intentions.
Yeah.
And so when I met Dale, who was my first spiritual teacher back in 1990, that's what really put me on this path of healing and studying and learning as much as I could throughout the years. And I'm still learning over
Never
30,
stop. How old were you when you met Dale?
21.
21. So you'd had a lot of heartbreak and sadness within that time. Any wonder you had cancer. And okay. So with the healings with Dale, what was the one thing that really sticks in your mind that you learnt from him? I know there's many, but was there something that stuck in your mind and still does today?
Yeah. Who I am as a soul.
Okay. And
Yeah.
explain that for those that don't really understand. I mean, we're humans, we're in a physical body, and we're an energy in motion. We're a vibration moving so fast that we don't know we are, and we are a soul. Explain that a little bit.
So, well, our soul is so huge, because we are connected to oneness, to the universe, to the galaxy. So when Dale painted this painting, he put several significant different past lives that I had and explained what each one meant and what it meant in this life. Now, in the painting, half my heart is blacked out because I'd shut down my heart. And he said, that is what you're here to learn, is to open your heart and trust. And there's also a wizard with a crystal ball in his hands, but our fingers aren't quite touching, because he said, if I get the crystal ball, which is the power, before I'm ready, it will kill me. And so when I'm ready, then I will get the crystal ball. And so it's interesting. When I was backpacking, I met this gorgeous Italian man, but he was from Australia, in Ireland, and we traveled together, and then we met up again in Switzerland, and traveled around and had all these amazing experiences. And it was probably in the last 6 months or so, I was going back over my photos, and I could see in the photos, it's like, oh my God, he really liked me. And I mean, he adored me. You could see it in the photos, but I was so shut down and so scared to open my heart and feel and even receive his love. And so we parted ways. But then when I was living in Sydney, because he lived in Sydney, he we reconnected and he came over to visit me and pretty much say I didn't, yes, I really liked you and wanted a relationship, but I couldn't understand, you were just so shut down and had a wall up. And so that's what was in this painting. So that's what I've had to learn and overcome all these years, is to open my heart and allow myself to receive. But through that, that's why I've remained single, and not for very much longer, though. It's like, yes, I'm now ready for a relationship, but I've done decades of work of clearing a lot of shadows, a lot of emotional pain, and all these patterns of being a human. And what that has done for my soul is help me to learn and grow and upgrade as a soul. And that's also part of what I'm to teach as well.
Mm. The trauma that you grew up with and how you've turned out is pretty amazing on the spectrum, isn't it? You've come from, how do you explain it? You've come from that place of not being nurtured, not shown love, in fact shown the opposite, to get to a space in your life where you want to help other people feel good about themselves and to understand and nurture themselves so that they can be the best person that they can be. It's pretty amazing when you have come up from such an anxious, sad place to bring yourself out of that. And with the support of many people along the way and the willingness for you to actually learn, grow, and become the person you are today.
Exactly. It's interesting. It was this year I had a reading. I went to Perth, and a lady in Perth did a crystal reading, and she just said, choose a crystal and she just picked all these ages and then what each crystal represented. And right up to now, because I'm 57 now, and she went, wow, everything that you've experienced and all the heartache and trauma, she said, you've come out the other side with still love in your heart. And so I feel that is my soul's mission. If I can come out the other side and still have the purpose, my soul's purpose, my life's purpose is to help humanity through this great awakening that we're all experiencing. Well, that's just what I'm here to do. And it's like, but I had to go through all my journey and all the heartache and all those experiences in order to help me become who I truly am, or to be stronger, I'm remembering how strong and powerful I am. And so I've had not just my family, but I've had another massive experience when I was living in America that pretty much took my soul out. And so I've come out the other side of that.
But you keep coming back. No one's going to keep you down. You're just going to keep coming back and coming back because you have a purpose in this world. And your purpose is to help others heal from their sadness, their angst, their whatever it might be, their mental health illnesses or whatever it might be. You're there with the experience, with the knowledge, with the wisdom to be able to truly help them. And I say this often, you cannot say you understand something if you've never experienced it. You have to be able to experience it, but you've taken yourself on a journey from a young child who wasn't really loved, or probably wasn't really wanted, into a space where you have a genuine love for yourself, a respect, and the courage to step up and help others do the same. Because some people aren't as strong as you have been through your journey, and they need that help to step up and move forward.
And that's why I'm teaching the tools that I'm teaching now in my programs, in my workshops, in my one-to-ones. It's teaching those tools that I've personally used and also learnt from my teacher, from Dale, and paying that forward to leave a legacy to stop illness. Like my goal is in 10 years' time, there will be no illness or disease that is experienced in humans, because the humans will know who they truly are, the power that they have, but also be so full of love and light that illness cannot exist in a body that is so full of love and light and vibrating at such a high frequency. So that's my goal in the next 10 years, to teach the tools to stop the illness, to stop the suffering, and to help those who are ready to step up to who they truly are, because there's going to be like a split on the planet, and not everyone. I thought that everyone was, but then another teacher of mine said, no, not everyone will. There'll be some souls kicking and screaming all the way to the grave and still angry. So, and I remember we used to do these Q&As with my teacher, where you could ask any planetary galactic questions, and we were talking about 2012. So I met her in 2004, and what we were talking about is this huge awakening in 2012. And she said at 2012, that's when humanity will be at least neutral, feeling neutral around spirituality. And I just went, wow. And she looked at me and just said, except for your family, Linda. I just went, and she meant it, because afterwards there was another lady who was complaining about all the dysfunctions in her family, and she just went, Jane, all the problems you got with your family, multiply that by 3, and that's Linda's family. And she meant it. So it was like, wow, okay, I chose a doozy in this life, and I'm still here to shine my light and make a difference on the planet and leave a legacy.
Absolutely. Yes. So you've stepped up to the level where you need to pass on that wisdom and create that ripple effect in the world, so it moves further out into the universe for people to heal. When you were overseas for how many years, and how long were you doing? I mean, it's a continual, it's continual work. It's not something you go and do and then stop, because it's a continual, every day working on yourself, learning something new, doing things, and repeating things to help you heal. When you discovered that you had cancer, how old were you?
21.
21. And when you discovered that, what was that feeling like for you?
I was disassociated. but I also knew it was like, wow, well, this is my opportunity to leave. And that's when it was divine intervention. The universe sent Dale into my life, and it's like, no, that's not part of your path in this life. Because he even said to me, if you keep going down this path, you will be dead by the time you're 30. And so that's when everything that he helped me with did the healing and stopped the cancer from eating me away.
How long was it before, you started the healing, and there were so many things that you needed to heal? And I always say, what we think about, we bring about. And a lot of people sit in that space of, oh, I suppose this is my lot in life. I suppose I better just continue on like this. Or what you think about, you bring about in illness as well, and we don't realize that. And we don't realize that healing ourselves is not about healing an illness. It's healing our heart and our soul to bring it to a place where we're wealthy mentally, emotionally, and physically, so that we can do the things in life that we want to do.
Exactly. And it was when I first met Dale that my whole perspective and outlook changed, because I had him who could see who I truly was, and just really showing me what an amazing soul I was, and who and what I came here to be. So having someone in your corner who's cheering you on and believes in you, and knows how amazing you are, is like massive, because I never had that support from my family. And it's just been a lonely road. And so when I started traveling around the world, my intention was to find love. And but it was really about finding love within myself.
Finding that love for you so that you could heal yourself and then
Yes.
do the things that you're meant to do in life. And we can talk about ancient wisdom, which we've spoken about before, and there's a lot of ancient wisdom which is still relevant today. And we'll touch on that shortly. But a lot of people years ago would have thought what we've been talking about with Dale and how you're healing yourself and all that sort of thing is woo-woo. Well, spirituality is a part of who we are. Whether we accept that or not is up to the individual. It's about bringing joy and love and happiness into your life, and not, you can think about that, oh, what's going wrong all the time, or the challenges that you have, but you've got to eventually turn that round to be able to make the changes that you want to make. But you've also got to have someone such as yourself, Linda Joy, to be able to have your back when you start falling, to pick you up and to rise up again and keep going. And when you fall again, it's not about falling, it's about someone having your back and you having the courage to be able to pick yourself up, believe in yourself, and believe that people have got your back so that you can trust. And that's a really important thing, isn't it? That trust.
And absolutely. And that's what we're all going through is right now, is remembering who we truly are, and stepping into our power, and knowing that we are not our patterns or old programs or all those old stories and beliefs. that was just part of the package that we came for our soul to learn and grow. And so and this is where the ancient wisdom comes in. When you truly know who you are as a soul and know that nothing and no one can hurt you, harm you, or destroy you, because our soul just keeps living. So I have no fear of death, and it's really this freedom that is, and freedom is one of my top values, and that's how I've always just lived my life. And actually, when I first met Kachina, who's been my spiritual teacher for 20 years, when I first had a reading with her, she just went, "You have an amazing life." And she said, "You just up and go whenever you want, and go travel and do what, nothing ever stops you." She said, "Most people, the only thing they do is they go to work each day, and on the weekends, they might, mow the grass, or, have a barbecue, and that's the highlight of their, weekend. Whereas, I'll just go travel and explore and just have all these amazing adventures, and also meet amazing people along the way. So I've always been this free spirit." And that's the silver lining of the family that I grew up in, because we're operating in, different frequencies, and we're not on the same wavelength. I can go and do whatever I like, because really they're not interested in my life, and they're not the type of people to go, "Oh no, come over, it's a family dinner, or you need to come here." It's like, I'm lucky to get a phone call once or twice a year, and so it's like they're not stopping me. I've got freedom to just go and do, and I don't have to report in. So that's something I'm very grateful for. And to not, oh, yes, they try and control me when they can, because I actually moved to California to live, and that, did trigger my sisters big time.
Why did it? What was it
Well,
that triggered them?
because
I mean,
they're very controlling, they're very dominating. So the fact that I just went and, moved over to the other side of the world and didn't ask them for permission, it's like, how dare you?
but why
So
did you need to ask permission? What was it that you had to do to ask permission from them to be able to
well, I
travel the
didn't.
world? You didn't, no.
I didn't, but that's how they treated me for many years, which is one of the reasons why I left, because living in another hemisphere was a safe distance. And while I was overseas, it's like freedom.
Hence one of your top values, freedom.
Yes.
It's really quite incredible, isn't it, when you get a different perspective on somebody's life as to how they grew up and where they come from and how they were treated, and then have this conversation and find out those things. But looking at you now and your passion and your purpose for supporting others to create the life that they deserve, create the life that they want, and understand that they have to have the clarity, which then brings confidence once you've got clarity around what you know, who you are, and what you want in life, which builds the confidence. But there's also that other one, which is that connection with self, because we are usually disconnected because we're pulled so many different ways and influenced by so many different things that sometimes we don't even know who we are half the time. A lot of the time we don't. And we just get pulled from pillar to post. And if we don't have the strength to say, stop.
And that's where the ego comes in. The ego is what's pulling you from pillar to post. And sorry, can I just pause there? Someone's at my door. 2 seconds, 1 moment.
Okay, we'll keep talking. I think that Linda Joy has a story to share, and that she has the ability to understand who and how you're thinking, and how she can help you, because she's experienced those things. She's experienced a cancer and healed from that, and gone and done the research, the learning, and the growth and the development that she needs to be able to help and support you. What is it, Linda Joy, that really drives you?
Making a difference for others, actually seeing the transformation from the work that I do. And I don't really call it work. It's my astrology teacher looked at my birth chart and looked at where my planets were placed. And she just went, wow, you're a transformational catalyst. And so for years, it was like, what do I call myself? And I've had so many different labels. But because of the transformation that humans are going through, that really aligns to the work that I do. Because back in 2004, when one of the modalities I learned was an enlightenment modality that shifts consciousness, expands awareness, and connects all 12 strands of DNA. From that moment, that's when the light bulb went off for me, and everything that I was doing in my business, and because I was working on individuals, and with the body work, the energy work, and the healing. And then that just took everything to another level of my intuition just heightened. And then I was traveling and teaching this, because it was like, wow, why do people create pain in their physical body? It's about shifting consciousness. If they just shift consciousness, then the physical body will take care of itself. So that's always been my philosophy, and why I've been passionate about traveling and teaching, and I'm still traveling and teaching today, though now mostly it's online.
I want to ask you to explain what consciousness is, because there are some people that may not understand that. I mean, we think, we feel, and we act. So I say head, heart, and hand. And what we think about, we bring about through the emotions and the actions that we do. But what is consciousness? What does that actually mean?
So consciousness is like, we have a conscious mind that is making the choices and decisions on a daily basis. Underneath, we have the subconscious, which is where all the old programs and patterns and beliefs and the trauma and the childhood events and wounds is also stored, which then affects our behavior and how we show up on a daily basis, and also what we are attracting into our life, because we are all energy. So depending on what is running you, which is all the old programs, is your external world will show you who you are being. But if you are showing up conscious and aware of who you are as a soul, as a being, and you know exactly you are in alignment with your higher self. You're in alignment with your soul and your purpose and your mission in this life. And you're doing your inner work to clear those old programs that are running, well, then the events, the people, the circumstances that you attract into your life will be for your highest good and destiny. Everything's for our highest good and destiny, but it's about being conscious about what energy you're putting out there. And especially right now, the veil is lifted. So our manifestation is happening instantly. And so this is where our thoughts, we have to be so aware and careful about the thoughts that we're putting out there, because it all has energy. The words that we speak have energy. The stories we run in our mind has of energy vibration, and we're manifesting things so quickly. And this is where affirmations come in. It's like you can manifest things instantly. So that's where, when you shift consciousness, you really step into that place
When
of
you say manifest anything, if you're in the right space in consciousness, so that's what you're thinking, and you're not living with those past habits, those habits that we have, and bringing yourself into alignment with your consciousness now, manifesting becomes easier if you only allow it to happen.
yeah. But it can also, on the flip side, if you're putting out those negative thoughts, well, you will manifest the negative as
Yeah.
well. So depending on your thoughts, if they're positive or negative, and again, no judgment, it's whatever you are thinking about, you're bringing about. And so this is why the tools I teach my clients and students is to clean up those old programs, so that you are being mindful and aware and about your intentions, what energy you are putting out there, because you will get it. The law of attraction, that's how it works. So
Also thinking about how, those old habits come from, and they can stem from generations coming through before birth. And then you're born,
right.
and you develop habits throughout the first 7 years, and we
That's
do
right.
things every day, and they're habits. We get out of bed the same way. We put on the slippers or shoes or whatever, undies, the same leg in first, all those sorts of things. And they're habits. We turn on the kettle, we might use the same hand and press the button with the other hand, or however, or whatever you do. They're all our habits. We have good habits, we have bad habits. We align with societal norms a lot of the time that we don't realize that we're aligning with, and we're doing things just because everyone else is doing it.
Yeah, and that's the unconscious.
Yes.
Because see, people are very impressionable, and this is where the programs are created from the external world, especially media, and that is what creates a lot of the bad habits. And then it stops people. Now let me just, so all the, because it's a lot of marketing, right? And what people see on billboards, what they see in movies or ads, and it's all programming. And so this is where consciousness, being really aware of, oh, that's fear-based, or that's true, or that's coming from a place of love, and being discerning. So when I was living in the US, and I didn't watch TV much, but where I was living, they'd, have the TV on, and I'd see all these ads for medication. And if you don't, if you're experiencing all these symptoms, well, you have this illness and you have to go and see your doctor and you need this medication. It was all plugging, all these meds. And I'm just looking at it. It's like,
What's
it
going
just didn't
on?
and so it was all just fear-based because people would go, oh yeah, I had a headache. Oh, now I've got, and so it's all to feed the big pharma. And so it's a lot of the marketing that we see today is fear-based. And this is where each individual needs to be very discerning about what's true and what resonates with them. And we experienced this through COVID. So much fear mongering. And that just, there was a silver lining, because the external world was putting all this fear on humanity. But then when everyone was shut down, locked up, that gave people an opportunity to stop the doing, stop the busyness, and actually go within and start feeling and meditating and having time to go, oh, is this true? And what is true for me?
And also with that, you could say that stop where we had to stop and we couldn't go to work and we couldn't do the things that we normally do, which is just an expectation. We had to stop, and a lot of people stopped and realized that what they were actually doing, they didn't want to do. They were just doing it because they had to do it or because that was the path they'd taken. But they had time to stop and think about that and think,
Exactly.
what the hell am I doing? I don't want to do that. And changed.
That's right. And so this is where the burnout comes, because all these people are programmed. You have to work hard, you have to succeed, you have to work and work and work to earn lots of money. But what happens is they're then spending all that money on their health issues and on health treatments, or to try and get themselves healthy again, or spending money on addictions to numb out the feelings that they don't want to feel. And so all these addictions, whether it's, drugs or alcohol or gambling or porn or whatever, I mean, people find all this stuff to spend money on because they're scared of just stopping and feeling their true emotions. And so this comes down to your self-worth. Your worth is not in relation to what your bank account says. And so this is an old program that is running. If you have a big bank account, if you've got the private jet and the 15 Ferraris, or you've got, this
Whatever.
title, well, then you're successful. And so many people, and I saw this, everywhere I traveled around the world, regardless of what they called themselves, under that money or that fame or whatever, there was deep-seated sadness and hurt and so much trauma and wounds. But what people do, and especially in these positions, they're so trapped in, because they're scared of truly opening up to what's going on underneath, and that they are scared of feeling, they're scared of sharing what's truly going on. Sure, they got the massive salary and the huge house, but they're miserable.
But
And
at the end of the day, money is an energy. It needs to circulate. And not all the money in the world can make you happy. It cannot buy you health, cannot buy you wellness, cannot buy you any of those things. It can buy you all the material things. But eventually, I mean, you get one material thing and you play with it for a little while. Oh, I need something else. So it goes on. And you see a lot of people who right now are living with some form of mental illness because there's so much stress that they've put upon themselves to be whatever it is that they want to be, or they've allowed societal norms to put that pressure on them so that they can then be that person. You look on social media, and I always say it, there's a facade. Everyone has a facade. They want to be seen in a certain way. They want that recognition for that, when behind that mask there's someone else really wanting to get out and show the world who they truly are. The authenticity is lost.
Well, that's what the shadow is. So this is why burnout to balance is the umbrella I'm operating under, because so many people are burning themselves out to live up to this facade, but it's crumbling, and they're crumbling, and all the darkness is coming to the surface, and you cannot ignore, and you can't push it down anymore. You cannot ignore the elephant in the room, because if you're ignoring the elephant in the room and keep suppressing all this wounding and the trauma and the sadness, it will create illness and disease. So when people create an illness and disease, and I mean, I take full responsibility, because, and I've been there, and I've been burnt out, I've been at rock bottom, I've created, major illness in my body, but I came out stronger. And yes, it took a lot of courage to go to the depths of the depths, to feel what a lot of people experience. But I came out the other side, healing my own body, medication free. And so it's really about taking responsibility. And this is everyone who's listening to this, for what's coming up for you, and actually acknowledging it, acknowledging the emotions, acknowledging the emotional pain, and looking really at the root cause of what's behind the illness or the disease, or even a headache or a migraine. I hear of people when they get migraines and they're in bed in darkness for like
Days.
5, 6 days at a time. And so it's like, well, instead of shutting yourself out for a whole week of your life, wouldn't it make sense to actually look at what is the root cause of the migraine, and actually being true to yourself, and resolving that emotion, because you cannot keep ignoring it.
Well,
and the more you keep ignoring it, that takes more energy, because it's like, I've got a medi ball in my room, and if you keep pushing down that energy, like in a swimming pool, and you keep pushing it down, that takes a huge amount of energy to keep that down. Whereas if you just surrender and let go and let God in and let the light into your body, well, then the ball and the energy just comes up and it floats away.
yes, but you find that a lot of people don't allow themselves to sit back and reflect and see where they're at, because, and as you keep on saying, there's a fear there. There's a fear of actually seeing who they truly are. Sometimes they just don't want to see that because the reality is too harsh for them. And there may be things that they see that they really need to change and take that step to make those changes. But you can find someone who can help you make those changes. And when you're going fast every day, and you're in a high powered position, and you're working 80 to 100 hours a week, you cannot continue that physically, mentally, or emotionally. You can do it for a period of time, but then your body says, okay, I've had enough now. I'm not doing this anymore. And so you're going to listen to me. I'm going to make you sick. And that's I mean, we create dis-ease in our life, which then can create the disease.
So you said that people fear and are scared about this harsh reality. What they're created is more harsh and more suppressing than the actual reality that we live in, because the fear is just an illusion. So they're just living under this illusion and scared to actually just take a step forward into the new reality, which is bliss. It's beautiful. It's full of love and light and joy and happiness. So it's really just making that choice and taking that step. And this is the deeper work that I do with my one-to-one clients. And we clean all that up so they can truly just step into who they're meant to be and step into the new version that they are.
How do you, when someone comes to you and they're in a space they don't even understand, they're in a space that they don't understand, they don't know where to look, what to think, or how to feel, or anything like that, but they don't understand why, and their lives in turmoil, what's the first thing that you would do with them?
Well, in my questionnaire, and it's quite a lengthy questionnaire, they answer a lot of different questions. And just in that process, that's what starts the process. Because anyone who I work with is, we have an agreement, and they agree that they're willing to do their
The
work. They're
Mm-hmm.
willing to do their homework.
Mm-hmm.
And because before I even take on a coaching client, it's like we're both 100% committed. And that's because it's a joint relationship. And so that's where I'm facilitating their healing process and helping them along the way, and holding their hand and steering them along the path. So in the process, what we do is, they answer all those questions, which unravels and really is this foundation. But then we go all the way back to conception, and then clean up anything that is in the way. So someone's world, whatever their world looks like, is a reflection of what's going on internally. And then also bringing in, so what I'm just thinking, one of my clients, he's just gone through a divorce. Well, sometimes in life is like that contract is up. And it doesn't matter if you've been together, 1 month, 10 years, or 20 years, 30 years. When the contract is up, and because both parties need to do their own inner work, well, sometimes it's best to go on your separate ways. And I mean, he, in the last 12 months, he's completely transformed his life, and all his friends and everyone around him's going, oh my God, you're not the same person. And his career is taken off, and he's just expanding and moving up and getting promoted more and more, because he is now truly happy and in alignment with what brings him joy.
It's all about having that joy in your life, isn't it? It's all about having it, being kind to yourself. Instead of
That's
beating
right.
yourself up all the time, being kind to yourself and putting yourself first. Because I will say, as a mother, you usually, you take on that role as a mother, and you are responsible and you care for that child, but you forget about yourself because you're going through the day and you're doing the do and everything like that. And it comes to the end of the day, you put that child to bed and you're so exhausted you don't have time for yourself. And that continues. And what happens is there's that dis-ease that comes along until the disease is formed and you don't realize it.
Well, and what happens, that child is watching how you are treating yourself, and that's setting up a program for them.
Yes.
And then the generation just keeps, it's like, oh, because I was brought up, where my dad programmed in me, no one ever gives you anything in life, I work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, no one ever gives you anything, and blah blah blah. So that old program was running for me, and it's like, don't ever ask for anything, as well as don't ever ask for help.
Yeah.
And to work for it, you have to work 24/7, you have to keep pushing yourself. So that's what led to my burnout, because it's like I was constantly trying to strive and just work hard and work hard, and in order to feel worthy or to gain my dad's acceptance and acknowledgement of love.
Mm. Mm.
But really, as a child, it's like, no, stop. This is our, and I even said this to my mother, I'm here to stop all these old cycles on my mum's side, on my dad's side, for all the generations and the past lives, all the way back, and the ancestors, and stop all these old programs and cycles and karma.
Yeah. Okay. So you said you go back. I want to talk about ancient wisdom and what it actually means. What is ancient wisdom?
It's bringing through the, how do I say it? The knowledge and the wisdom that's innate in our soul. And because we came and we've been living in this 3D reality thinking that we are just this human body, but our soul is actually so expansive, so it's multidimensional, it's galactical. We are part of the one. We are the stars and the planet and the galaxies and the universe. So this is the ancient wisdom. And when people truly understand that, then that will stop this 3D thinking, or the human ego thinking, oh, I've been attached to material stuff, or thinking that there's competition, or this separation that we're all feeling right now, because that's the ego. And because the ego is what is driving a lot of people, but it's not who we are. So the ancient wisdom is really, it's like we are one. We are all connected. We're multidimensional. We're so much more than this physical body. And look outside of that. Look at the big picture. And that's the way I've always looked. And you then become so less attached, to money or physical objects. I mean, I've got rid of stuff over the years and just culled and culled and culled. It is so freeing. And so when you understand that we are all part of the one, and we're all here to help Earth, because it's like even Earth is just a little speck in the whole galaxy.
Yeah.
So
It's really interesting. We could talk about these things for hours, but I want to talk about the equinox and what it actually means, because there are a lot of people, you have a moon that starts, there's a meaning to it, and as it goes through its different phases, there's different meanings and understandings for how the moon operates. And I grew up when they'd say, there's a full moon and there are people that go crazy on a full moon and all this sort of stuff. And is it true, or does it give you a feeling? I know some people say, oh, it must be a full moon because I'm feeling like blah, or whatever it might be. I never understood that. And I always say, when I go walking and there's a full moon, it follows me. I've been told it does not, in fact, it does not follow you. But if you want to think it follows you, then you can. And I get the giggles because I feel it follows me. But anyway, that's beside the point. But what are the different phases of the moon? What do they mean? And, there's been talk about the changes that are happening now and for a while. What's going on there? Can you explain that, please, Linda Joy?
The equinox is a balance of the light and the dark. And right now, we're also in an eclipse season. So the last full moon was a lunar eclipse.
Yes.
And then the next new moon will be a solar eclipse. And now, what the eclipse season, and it lasts for 6 weeks, is really bringing up stuff to the surface. Now, what it's bringing up for each individual is bringing up their unresolved issues, bringing up the trauma, bringing up the wounds, bringing up the darkness and the shadows and those aspects of ourselves that we have suppressed. So this is an opportunity for transformation. And because the veil has lifted on the planet, it's like this is our opportunity to receive more light in our body. When we bring in and light up our light codes within our body and our DNA, that will just raise the energy vibration on the planet. And if each individual did that individual work on themselves, then that's when we will become equal in the light and the dark. Because what's happening right now is there is a lot of darkness on the planet. A lot of the corruption is coming to the surface. A lot of all these organizations and broken systems and governments and politics, it's all just broken and corrupted, and so that's all crumbling. So the truth is coming to the surface. And so all these things that have been going for eons is all coming to the surface, because it's not about putting someone in power to be a dictator or a dominator or whatever. It's about the power of the people and making those choices as we move into a new world. So what this equinox is looking at, okay, really take responsibility, look at the darkness within you, shining a light on it, and what changes do you want to make? Because March next year, 2025, that equinox is going to be a massive, amazing, powerful, huge. People will not be the same. So for the next 6 months, I encourage everyone to really go deep and do your inner work.
A lot of people will say, oh, I don't believe in that. That's rubbish. That's woo-woo and all the rest of it. And that's fine.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
But are you truly happy?
Well, this is the question. Are you truly happy? What do you want in life? Do you have to go along on that pretense all your life? Or can you wake up in the morning and say, thank you for this beautiful day. Thank you for allowing me another day in this world. Thank you for allowing me to be me. No, it's really interesting when you start doing work on yourself, professional development or spiritual work. And I will have to say that I was never really a spiritual person. And I'm not really deep into it because I don't understand it all, but I have a respect for it. And I think, the more you have a respect for it, the more you have conversations about it, the more you learn, the more you understand it. And, you can say it's woo-woo, but deep down in every one of us, there's something wanting to move to the surface, that I'll call it the magic and brilliance that we have inside us, that's sitting there suppressed because we have this fear of that judgment from others to start with. That's just one little thing, but there can be so many more things. I don't deserve, or that's not for me, or we can tell ourselves story after story after story.
And that's the old self that's operating. And when you go through this transformation and this rebirth, you step into a whole new being, a whole new reality, and you create that. Because having all those thoughts and the beliefs and telling yourself the old programs and stories and doing the same behaviors that are affecting your health, or doing the same habits, is just creating the same results, the same misery. And yes, not everyone will wake up in this lifetime, and they will stay in that 3D. And this message that I'm speaking about right now will only land and resonate with those that are awakening, that are willing to do their inner work, that are ready to step into the new version of you. And so the work I do for people is not for everybody, but it'll resonate for those that are truly ready.
And you say ready, and you've mentioned the word ready before. You have to be ready to make
And
the
willing.
change, and willing, yes, to make those changes. If you're not ready and there's just something in there saying, yeah, okay, but you're not really, truly, honestly ready, nothing will change.
No, but that's the ego having the doubts. So it's about identifying, oh, that's the ego that's holding me back. But the truth is, when you're really true to yourself, that's where the truth will go, well, you're miserable, and all you're doing is drinking a bottle of wine every night and watching crap TV, or doing the same thing, and then or not sleeping because you're so stressed out, and you're just continuing on this hamster wheel. And it's like, is that truly how you choose to continue to live your life? Or do you choose to do something else? See, people fear change even when life is not working for them. So it's really about taking a step back. And what I've been coaching, my people, is stop and just be still. And then, listen to nature. Go and talk to the trees, or stand on the grass bare feet, and just stop and breathe. And that's what we did yesterday in my workshop, is bare feet on the grass. We're out in nature in the park, and we did a lot of breathing exercises. At the same time, we had movement, shifting the energy and just breathing it through, and shifting the darkness out of our body to bring more light into our body.
It's interesting, isn't it? Some of us will be ready and some of us will never be ready. And we can't do anything about that.
It's not never. It's some people will need to keep coming back, another lifetime, or another 3 or 5 or 10 lifetimes, in order to upgrade their consciousness. So, like I said, some people will go to their grave kicking and screaming and still angry and miserable. And that's okay, because the next lifetime that they will come back, and it's like, okay, let's do this again. And so in spirit world, and especially for those that have committed suicide, it's like in spirit world, that's the most disgraceful thing that you can do as a soul. And it's like you go way down, in the growth cycle, and it's like you have to start from the beginning again.
Wow.
And so as a soul, we come into these bodies, and this is a blessing to actually have this body. And so, because there are trillions of spirit and beings out there all wanting this experience to be in a human body, experiencing what we have here on earth. So it's about respecting ourselves and loving this life's journey that we're all on, and really embracing, because we are part of nature, where we are the trees and the stars and everything around us, the moon, the sun. It's part of all of us. And like I said, we're multidimensional beings, so we are all part of all the galaxies.
We have to stop and be, and you said that, be in the present moment, because that's all we have. We don't, the past is the past, the future hasn't happened, and all we have is right now, here and now.
That's right.
And so what we need to do about it, and I don't like that word need, what we can do about it is feel that presence, feel the energies that are around you, feel that positivity, feel those things that you've never allowed in, because they will help you understand who you are and help you with the changes that you can make. Not, I won't say need, you can make by choice if you want to. We're in control of who we are and how we think. It's up to us to actually step up and take that control and do the things that are right for us, and not listen to those stories in our head, and not listen to those people that are saying, oh, don't be ridiculous. Why would you want to do that? Oh, that's stupid, you know? And listen to these people. What is it? And you do this and you say a line. What is it that you want in your life that you're allowing other people to stop you from having it?
Ask that question again. What am I stopping myself or allowing myself?
What is it that's stopping
Me
yourself?
personally?
No, just the person. What is stopping them
The
from,
human.
being them, when they've got this chatter in their head, they've got this chatter out in society, they've got these people saying, what are you doing that for? That's stupid, that's dumb, and that'll never work, and all this sort of chatter, and you want to be in that present moment. What can you do to step into that present moment and really feel you want to make those changes?
Well, if that's the present moment that you're stepping into with all the chatter and all the negative people around, I'd choose another path. I wouldn't even step into that environment, because if you truly love and respect and honor yourself, I'd choose another path that is quiet. And that's where relationships change, and you move away from all that noisy external world and all the negative chatter and all the negative people that are asking you, why you're doing what you're doing, and choose new people in your life that actually believe in what you're doing. So it's making a conscious choice. And this is where take a big step back and be still and quiet. Then allow God to come in. When you let go, you let God in. The ego is edging God out. So anything that is coming from, the busyness, the chatter in the mind, and all those stories and beliefs, that's all coming from the ego. That's your false self. So that you're releasing the false identity and the old you in order to step into the new. But you need to take a big step back into silence and then just be and listen to your next steps.
That can be pretty scary for a lot of people, though, can't it?
Only if you think it's scary. But if you give it a go and realize, oh, this is amazing, I just found bliss.
And
keep practicing that. That's where the meditation comes in.
And the repetition of doing that meditation and stepping into that place of being instead of worrying about what's happened in the past, because we can't change it. It's happened. It's gone. And we can't do anything about the future. The only thing we can do anything about is where we are right now. And we can take control of that and be whoever we want. But you said, let God in, or you could let God in, or the universe, or just allow to have that space to do nothing and relax.
And what if we just let go of control as well? What would open up? What would emerge if everyone just let go of control and let all of that go?
Very interesting stories would happen there. Very interesting if we let go of control, because we all like to have a certain amount of control, don't we?
Because it's all fear-based.
But we don't think like that, do we? We don't think it's fear-based.
This is the upgrade in consciousness that everyone will, if they choose to step into that new version of who they truly are. Otherwise, you just keep looping around and repeating the same cycle, and that just brings your energy down, because that's what's causing exhaustion and burnout and anxiety for people.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to give a few tips for people who are listening now or who will listen later. What can we do as humans to create simplicity? Because we want that simplicity in our lives. What can we do to do that? How can we start changing those old habits into new habits? And how can we do that if we have the fear of people who don't like change? What is it about that as well?
Well, for those people that don't like change, sometimes they need to actually hit rock bottom, or their life isn't bad enough for them to change. Because sometimes when you've hit rock bottom, the only way is up. So that will force change, and sometimes people aren't as miserable, they've got to go right to the bottom in order to go, oh, okay, well, this sucks. Now I'll make a new choice. So, and in regards to the habits, it's about discipline. It's about really setting an intention every single day and following these new daily habits and practicing these new daily habits. And if some days you don't get it all right, just keep going, because every day is a new opportunity to keep practicing. And the more you keep practicing these new daily habits, then it becomes automatic. It's a bit like when you were first learning to drive a manual car and you were thinking about, oh, okay, well, put my foot, on the clutch and then on the brake. And then, I change gears and then I indicate and I look at the mirrors and all this, chatter is, all these steps. And then you just become automatic because it's programmed in. They say that it takes 21 days to break a habit, but I have a habit tracker where I tell people to do for 33 days, because 33 is energetically a master number, but it really, to embody it fully, it's 90 days. So 60 to 90 days, and that's where you've completely overcome and created that new habit. And if one of those new habits is to sit in stillness and go and sit in the park with your shoes off, bare feet, sit under a tree and count the ants and just breathe, well, then do that.
Count the ants. You could be there forever.
It's about stopping, because what people do is they go, oh, I've just got all this chatter and this, talk, and my list of things to do and blah, blah, going through my mind. But if you give the busy mind something else to do and just count the ants, well, then you just go into this trance state. And it, different things work for different people. Some people can just stare at the sunrise or the sunset, or be in nature is one of the most beautiful things. I like being in nature, but I also like being under the water in the ocean. And so when you're under the ocean and just moving through the water, that is the most peaceful place, that because your mind, all you're doing is listening to your breath. So then if you can practice the breathing in everyday life and just listen to the breath, and you can follow your breath. There's so many different breathing techniques, but there's a 4 square breathing, which actually calms down your whole sympathetic nervous system and calms the nervous system, so you move into the parasympathetic. And it's breathing in for the count of 4, holding for 4, breathe out for 4, and rest for 4. And when you do that, what that does is calms your whole nervous system, calms your body, and then you get more into the parasympathetic nervous system. And then, because that's relaxing your whole vagus nerve, and then allow and see what comes in when you're in that relaxed state. And you'll be amazed at the insights, the messages, the information that just flows through you, the creativity and the ideas that you get when you're just quieting this monkey mind.
Yeah. And do we ever really quieten our mind? Because I don't think we do. Even when we go to sleep, I mean, we might dream, or we might wake up and our mind's going 100 miles an hour, thinking about, oh, I've got to get this done, or I've got to do that, or that didn't work, or whatever it might be, the story that we're telling ourselves. We look at that, and yeah, it's all about taking that control.
Again, you're giving power and energy to the monkey mind. So it's about letting the monkey mind go. And when you let that go, you bring in God.
What's one tip that you would give somebody, Linda Joy, when they're sitting in a space and they're listening to this, they're sitting in a space where they're not happy, they're wanting to take those steps forward, but they're too scared, and their fear is of judgment, their fear is of all the stories that they're telling themselves? What would you tell them?
So, first of all, have a goal on what you truly do want. Then look at the judgment and acknowledge the judgment, and look at where did the judgment come from, and what if that judgment wasn't there? Because see, the judgment's just a pattern that is being held in place by some past event or some past trauma, and it's usually a fear of judgment, or the ego's judging. But who's judging? Because it's all happening within you. So when you acknowledge it and actually truly look at it, the judgment will dissolve. And because it's like, well, what's the point of holding on to that? And now that you've let go of it, what's trying to emerge? Keep asking yourself, what is trying to emerge here? And keep asking. And then what you will do is, when you let go of the judgment, then you allow in more freedom, you allow in more joy, you allow in better health, just more energy. You allow in all the goodness by letting this judgment go. Because if you look at the map of consciousness, the scale which is built by David Hawkins,
yeah,
and the scale of consciousness shows 200 and below are all the low vibration energies and emotions. And so anytime that you're feeling any of these things, what happens? It brings your energy down. Whereas 500 is where love is, and then you've got love, peace, and joy into enlightenment. And so when you're vibrating at those frequencies, that's what happens with your energy vibration. So when you look at, well, how does judgment make me feel? Well, I feel guilt, or I feel shame, or there's fear. And so when you release that and acknowledge it and go, well, thank you for showing me, and I've just learned more about myself, and does this belong in my new life? Well, no. And when you truly just dissolve it, because when you shine light on it, it usually dissolves anyway, because it's like,
can't
you know.
stay there with the power of the light.
And so that's where it's like you just keep shining light on all those shadow areas of yourself, and then you become more light.
Beautiful. How can they get in contact with you, Linda Joy?
So my website is lindabenn.com, and on my website you can book a connection call, a clarity call, and that will go to my calendar. Also, my email is linda@lindabenn.com. I'm on all the socials and on all the platforms. I've got my own YouTube. So on YouTube, there's a lot of training videos and different meditations. And I do a weekly live with a lot of different teachings in there. And or send me a direct message. There's pretty much just Google my name and it'll come up.
Google Linda Joy Benn and she will be there. If you want to have more of a conversation with Linda Joy, then just Google her and message her and have that conversation. I want to say thank you, Linda Joy, for such a great, informative conversation. I'm Faye Waterman. This has been A Conversation with Faye. We'll be back next week with another guest at the same time, 2 to 4. Each Monday we are here. If you have a question or you want to share your story on here, message me on any of the socials. You'll get me. As Linda Joy said, just Google Faye Waterman and you'll find me. Thank you, Linda Joy. Have a fabulous afternoon.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Sending much love.
And
bye for now.
Yeah, and we'll be back again. Bye for now.